Two Good Sports with Hamo and Greggy.
All right, welcome to Two Good Sports with my old mate Greggy. I emphasise the old. Been a massive week, Greg. I can't remember a bigger week in sport in the last year or two.
Everything has happened this week.
Absolutely. We've got a really good show this week. We're fortunate enough to have a really special guest, Greggy.
Yeah, Adrian Vowles played State of Origin for Queensland. Charterful boy. He's done a lot of things in rugby league and done a lot of things off the field as well, but we'll talk to him soon.
All right, let's rip into it.
Have we ever done it in 90 seconds?
No. But we're getting there. We're getting closer all the time. Greggy, let's knock I suppose the biggest topic, or one of the biggest topipics of the week off.
There's a lot of big topics this week.
Yeah, and probably the most negative one, I should say.
Correct.
And that's Israel Folau.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming out in social media.
Yep.
And a lot of people are upset. A lot of people sit on the fence. And, some people are saying, freedom of speech. Your thoughts?
Slightly sitting on the fence on this one. I don't want to. I want to have an opinion. But I can't. I don't have a gigantic problem with freedom of speech. Has he gone too far? Probably. Does he deserve some sort of sanctioning? Probably. Does he need to have his career ended? Probably not.
Look, I think regardless, he's already had a sanction a couple of years ago,
That's
a year
correct.
and a half ago.
Yeah.
When you're earning the money he does, he's the poster boy for rugby, Australian rugby.
Mm-hmm.
I think regardless of your views, you can keep them to yourself and stay off social media. And I think that's one thing that, I guess his management would be pulling their hair out, because obviously, that they'd be thinking it's not just his image with Australian rugby. There are books out and so forth with him. Kids follow him.
You've nailed it there by saying he's already had a sanction against him. So without me thinking about that, probably because he's had a sanction before, I agree with the decision, but it's a hard one.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that this afternoon they've said he's got 24 hours to respond.
I don't know if he will respond.
I don't think so. He'll go over and play rugby in
French
Japan.
rugby and $1.4 million.
He's not going to be on the trail tomorrow.
No, he won't be working tomorrow.
Let's go on to a more positive story. The mighty mare Winx. Again, just showed the class in the final run at the Queen Elizabeth Stakes.
I think it was the fourth Queen Elizabeth Stakes. 33 wins in a row, 25 Group 1s in a row. Tough little tussle. The horse that came second looked all right, and Hartnell must hate Winx. Hartnell's come second or third to Winx, I think, about 10 times, but great win by Winx. Unbeatable over that distance. They had a pretend race with Winx and Far Lap and some other horses, and Winx won that as well. So Winx is beating Far Lap 60 years after Far Lap's dead. So how good's Winx? And
obviously Winx's press manager is doing a better job, because never came out and said one disparaging thing, Winx.
No, she never complained about the track. She never complained about the crowd. She never complained about anything. Remarks were kept to herself, so well done to Winx.
All right, Dusty Martin, he found himself in a bit of the spotlight this week.
Yeah, that was last week. Yeah, he got 2 weeks, got it back to 1 week. It was a snorting, wasn't it? A pretend snorting sort of signal. Frustration on the field. I don't have a problem with frustration on the field.
He belted someone, but I think it's also the drug reference.
The drug reference, but geez, end of the day, it's on the field. No, I don't have a problem with what Dusty did there. You can't punch anymore, so I have a problem with that, but I don't have a problem with his little snort thing to his nose. No, it's nothing to that.
Much either. Look, finally, in the big one today, Tiger Woods, he's done everything already. He's won his first green jacket after 14 years, I think.
Yeah, I think 14 years.
And he's now, I think, one
behind three behind
Nicholas. 3 majors behind Nicholas.
Yeah, three majors by Nicholas. So he's won 15. Jack Nicklaus won 18. Tiger, I think he can do it. I actually think he'll end up on 18. I don't know if he'll pass Jack Nicklaus, but I reckon he'll end up on the same as Jack Nicklaus. I reckon he'll end up on 18.
Considering the injuries he's had, like he's had
four knee operations, 4 back operations. What an interesting thing I heard was they were talking to him about one of the officials ran in the back of his legs and said to him, and they said after, they said, "Oh, how are you with your leg now?" And that after the official ran into you, and his statement was, I think having 4 back operations and 4 knee operations might be a little bit more serious than somebody running into my feet. So he summed up pretty well. He played really well, and I think that's the most intelligent he's ever played. But he has to play intelligent now.
Look, Barack Obama came out today, and I think he tweeted, "It's a study in resilience," and you can't deny that.
No, I can't.
All right, that's our around the sporting world 90 seconds. I
That's
think we're
3.5
pretty
minutes.
close. Yeah, we weren't 90 minutes this week anyway.
That is as good as you will see in the National Rugby League.
League our way. We're really fortunate this evening to have a very special guest in Adrian Vowles. Vowles, our former Seagull, Cowboys, Leeds Rhino, Castleford Tiger. Have I missed anything there, Vowlesy?
Wakefield Trinity.
Trinity.
Early Bears, we got to go.
And of course, let's not forget Scotland and Queensland, state of origin. So thanks for coming along, Vowlesy.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Vowlesy, we just want to ask you a few questions, obviously, about your league and what you did and all that. You're from Charterville. You went to the Seagulls to start with?
Yeah, so I grew up originally in Cunnamulla. I moved there lived there till about 10 and moved to Charles. Yeah, I finished school, grade 12 as you do, and had an apprenticeship here on the Gold Coast. So I moved from my own will. I wanted to play footy. Didn't have any offers or anything. I just wanted to come and test myself. And so I moved with one suitcase, got the Greyhound bus here. I think 14.5 hour trip, and then I started work about 7 hours later, and my first day of apprenticeship was 14.5 hours. And I then realised how good school was.
Greyhound, not McCafferty's.
I went to Greyhound that one.
Yeah, you started your career in the NRL in 1993 at the Seagulls. You played there for 93 and 94. You represented Queensland in 94. How was that?
Yeah, amazing. I came out of the Gold Coast Seagulls because back then you had the under 21s and reserve grades. So I had 3 years of that low grades before I played first. I played first grade against Great Britain in 92, but got to play under the King Wally Lewis in 93, which was, for a kid. Yeah, as we all loved the King, and that was an amazing experience. We only won one game, but it was awesome experience. And then he was my coach at Origin, so I got that call up late. Steve Renouf pulled out, and I got a phone call from Ross Livermore at 7:30 in the morning, and he said, "You're on standby." So I'm like, death riding Steve Renouf, hoping the God that he's pull up injured, and about an hour later, I got a phone call to say I was in, and it was like amazing. I rang Mum and Dad out in Charvel, and let them know. And Mum was crying, and rang my mates, and it's just it was so weird because I think I need new joggers and that, so I didn't have much money then because I was on stuff or money, so I went and bought new joggers, and my car needed a new clutch, but I've still got to drive that to Brisbane, and I got to the camp, and they gave me new joggers, and I thought, just wasted.
Did you sell the old ones?
Could have got a clutch.
No, I kept them, I could have bought the clutch, but it was just amazing. And to walk into camp to see, Mal, Alf, Kevy Walters, Wally, Choppy Close, the manager, Gary Larson, all those types of people, and you just pinch yourself because, you go back to that first Origin. I listened to it on the wireless, as they called it back then, with Dad, and Wally, Choppy, and Arthur, but Wally, Choppy, and Mal were all involved. Now here I am, 14 years later, and I set myself a goal that night when I listened to it. I wanted to play Queensland one day, and it took me 14 years to do it, but it was amazing.
Vowlesy, when that game was at the MCG. That was the first one at the MCG. The atmosphere obviously would have been electric. Gordon Tallis was a debutant along with yourself.
Yeah, we got on really well actually. We sort of hung around a bit, and I couldn't believe the stadium because I couldn't believe they could drive a bus under it. I've come from no stadiums like that out in Cunnamulla or Charvel, and it was just amazing. And the crowd, and there's a streaker at the start, so that got the crowd even more going. But just it was just an awesome experience. And as we know with Victorians, they'll turn up to opening of the car door, and they certainly did that night.
How'd you find the pace? Sorry, Greggy. How'd you find the pace and just the whole structure of the game from playing relatively few club games? You were a kid to going into an Origin against what was what would be the nucleus of a great New South Wales side for many years to come.
Yeah, it was fast, but I remember, I tried to put a shot on Bradley Clyde and come out of the line and hit him with everything I had, and it hurt me. I'm thinking, he's not like this in club footy. Like, it was like he'd grown another
level there.
And I don't even know if I slowed him down, but I hit him with everything I had, but it was just that much tougher.
Yeah.
87,000 too. Could you
Yeah.
hear? It would have been predominantly Maroon supporters too, I would have thought.
Yeah, we had a good following, but they as you do, they weren't always sure when to cheer or the right spot, because but it was just amazing, and then that the history of that ground, you just felt it. I'd watched AFL games as a kid growing up on the ABC, and it was just and me going to Melbourne as well. It was still a big thing for me. I was 5 years out of the country, but it was being a bush boy, and I'd only been to Sydney.
Yeah, a lot of those blokes you played with, I guess, a lot of those friendships would have continued to today.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I remember Mick Hancock. He sort of took me under his wing as well, because as soon as he found out I was a country boy, and Gary Larson, they were all really good. And Alfie Langer was, the funniest boy. He'd sit at the back of the minibus while he's driving, and Alfie's going, "Hey Wally, I bet you 20 cents you won't handbrake it around the corner." Next minute, the team bus is sliding around the corner doing a handbrake. Like, you go back to now, can you imagine that happening in today's society? Be front page news, but that's how Wally was.
Well, he was famous or infamous, whichever way you look at it, wasn't he? Right back into kangaroo tours and everything.
Peter
driving
Jackson went through the windscreen. But so the bus would pull up, and then everyone would think, all right, and then they'd stand up, and then Wally would drive off again, and everyone would fall over. So everyone would wait there, and sometimes he'd turn the bus off and then turn it back on and drive again. Yeah. But by the end, everyone would wait until Wally got out of the bus before they'd get out of the. It was just a real good laugh as well.
Mate, after that, obviously a couple of years on the Gold Coast, the Cowboys was your next port of call.
Yeah, it was. I actually had a lot of offers to go to most clubs, and looking back now, I didn't want to go to Sydney because that country boy was a bit scared of Sydney, to be honest. I would have liked Illawarra or Newcastle. And anyway, I thought North Queensland would be good, new club, new beginnings. Grant Bell was my 21s coach, and he was the head coach of that. And then there's a number of us, Paul Gayer, Andrew Whittington, Dave Bovine, John Scarden, we were all going. So I thought, this will be really good. And I remember getting off that plane in October. Back then, you walked across the tarmac, and I couldn't believe how hot it was. The humidity. I'm just thinking, what am I doing? I'm used to the heat being from the bush, but the humidity was just. The training it was so hard because I sweat just thinking about it, and it was tough.
I think Andrew Whittington said that you guys helped turf the place up there. Is that right? He said he'd never done anything as torturous as that.
Yeah, well, so our first game, we're leading up, playing the first ever game for the Cowboys against Canterbury. You get to training, and Graham Bell goes, "Right, boys, we're not training today, we're laying turf." So we laid turf for all the hills around the ground. And you know what, no one whinged, no one questioned it. It was just like, you'll just do it. And because I say now, imagine saying that to the NRL sides that, righto, go and turf a hill. They'd be ringing their player managers and going,
taking the
"We're not
union,
doing this."
Get the union to be involved. Yeah.
But it was just, you didn't think, you just did it.
Yeah. So you got up there, the Cowboys, first game, send off Vowlesy. What happened?
Oh, just a tackle gone wrong. It was perfect. I knew where he was running. I thought, I am going to put you into tomorrow. And I've come down and come up. He's sort of come down, and I've just come like that and just shoulder hit him straight on here. Graham, who was the referee? Tim Mander sent me off for a swinging arm. And I dead said the tackle, if you get a chance, watch the video, because I hadn't even finished the tackle and he'd sent me off. And hadn't been
against Canterbury, was it?
Yeah, and I hadn't been Sinmin before that time, so I was gutted. And so I thought, I can't get sent. I had a tooth mark on my shoulder, and I thought, I've hit him with my shoulder. Like, I didn't hit him with my arm. And I argued it at the judiciary, and I showed a tackle I'd done against Jared McCrack, exact same tackle, just obviously he's a bit taller. And I got 2 weeks, so I was gutted. But
didn't listen.
I'll be remembered.
Mate, around that time too was the looming Super League war and the eventual Super League problem or war.
Yeah.
How did that impact you?
Really good. Yeah, no, it was. I get a phone call. We'd played Canberra and had a good game. We just lost, and I get a phone call. Got to go to the casino to meet News Limited people. So I go into a room and offers me a sign-on check and a contract, and I'm trying to ring my manager going so I could ask, and then I couldn't get hold of him, so I just signed it. It was more money than I'd seen. And
You could pay for your clutch, no worries then.
play for
Runners.
2 or 3 clutches and new runners, but yeah, it was just amazing. And I was one of the first, I think, to sign for the Cowboys, and I think the Raiders boys might have got signed at the same time. It was, it was interesting. It was, and the whole war and here and there. And I look back because I'd been approached after that about playing for Queensland, and I always looked there and go, if I hadn't, I could have played in Fatties.
Yeah.
Famous team.
Yeah.
Well, that was my next question, because I remember looking at that team, Bowsy, and we all would have, that was before internet. I remember the Telegraph, the Arvo Telegraph, and looked at it. And even though a bit of a league tragic, I thought a couple of names there that don't come to mind very well. And playing the previous year, I'd say it would have been a shoe-in with playing amongst the stars, the Langers and the Walters and all those guys. That probably was something you paid for.
Yeah, well, I do, honestly. I think about that and go, because I approached my manager as well, and he said he signed Super League, and was like, would have been awesome just to play in a game like that. It was so much passion, and it was probably old school Origin. Fatty bought that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and there was Biffo, there was
everything.
They hated each other, which is what you want, I
I
grew up hating New South Wales.
Yeah.
Still do.
Well, I remember the first game, Wayne Bartram, the hooker who never played a hooker, and I don't think he was really a Queenslander either. We made him a Queenslander.
Kempsey's in Queensland.
Yeah, absolutely. But 2-0 that first game.
Yeah.
And I think the odds were just ridiculous that first game. I can't remember what they were, but Queensland were rank outsiders at best. Because they still had New South Wales still had a pretty good 17. They weren't as affected, obviously, as Queensland was.
And Benny Eichen, a young kid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Terry
Cook
who played with the Seagulls.
Craig
awesome
Teevan. But good on him. Mate, after that, not after that, but a couple of years at the Cowboys, obviously a lot of fond memories there. You made the move. You said earlier that being a country boy, you were probably reluctant to move to Sydney. You looked at Illawarra and Newcastle. Well, you certainly made a bigger move. You made a big move, and this was where you played the majority of your rugby league in your career.
Yeah, well, it wasn't something I planned. Tim Sheens came the end of '96, so I'd captained that Cowboys side in '96 every game. Never missed a game. Played majority with a torn groin, and played the last half as a lock, and where I wanted to play. And then Tim Sheens came and said I wasn't big enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't fast enough, had limited ability. So that was it. I got punted.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, well, I'm all for coaching and liking him, but just he didn't have to say any of that. Anyway, so I've been waiting for him to come as well. But anyway, I ended up going to England, which was going for 1 year. 1 became 7.
And the success you had over there, Castleford, Leeds, Wakefield, and of course in 2001, Scotland.
Yeah. So I didn't even know I had that heritage, and then Dad told me, so that sort of came out of the blue. But that was amazing. We didn't win a game, but if we'd have beaten Samoa, we played Australia, which would have been good, but we only just went down. But yeah, great experience. But England, the supporters over there are amazing. When I first went, they weren't amazing. We lost 11 games straight, so I was just getting abused and copying it. And the harder you try, sometimes the worse you go. And then Stuart Raper came over and sort of changed the coaching, and I loved it in the end. I got friends for life over there, both the supporters and the players.
Travel back there?
I got flown back there by a sponsor 2012, I think it was, but I haven't been back since. So hopefully I'll get to go back in a couple of years. I just love going back there, and 3 of my kids were born there as well. So there's particularly my twin boys. They left when they were 7, so that quite a long time went to school there.
You mentioned something about buses before, Greg.
Yeah, I heard that they named, was it 13 buses after the champions of Yorkshire?
Yeah, it was just something that come out of the blue, and then I get a phone call to say they've named a bus after him. And it's funny because over here don't get that recognition, but over there you do, and it's just pity it's so far away. But yeah, it's still going. I think it's still going. They said it's a couple of people sent me a photo to tell me it's going all right.
And you also got Man of Steel Award while you're over there too, and I guess that's, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's the equivalent of the highest honour over there. It's our Australian version Dalian, the English version Dalian.
Yeah, that was, again, we had a really good year that 99 year. We had Aaron Raper, we had Dale Fritz, we had really good Michael Ego, had a really good bond as a team. One game off the grand final, one game off Challenge Cup. Then I went to the awards thinking I was happy to be nominated. I was just there to have a beer. And for all the other awards, they read out every nomination. So they'd read a bit about you, a bit about you, a bit about me. And then they named the winner. And then, so they started talking about me for the Man of Steel. So I was like, oh, okay. And then just zoned out. And then they said, oh, the second Australian to win at the first Castle player. And I was like, took me a little bit to sink in. And the people on my table knew, they already knew. So they're watching and laughing. And then it's clicked and I've gone, and yeah, it was just such a surreal. And to see the previous winners that have won it, the likes of Elliot Hanley and Gary Schofield and those sort of people, and be the first Queenslander as well. So
Did you give Sheensy a quick call?
Yeah, that's my question.
the first thing I said when I accepted, I said I'd like to thank Tim Sheens for sacking me from the Cowboys. So all good things happen.
Mate, you've had a great career. You obviously moved back to Australia with your young family and got back into, I guess, normal life here back in Queensland. Talking about Queensland, currently we're in round 5. We're going into round 6. They're not going as well as probably we would like. You've played for 2 of the 3 Queensland teams. Your feelings at the moment about the 3 Queensland sides, how they're going?
They're struggling. I mean, the Titans came off a really good win on the weekend. Hopefully that'll kickstart them. But before that, they were probably struggling a little bit. But I just think at the Broncos, Siebes is, I think his halves are probably letting him down there. Maybe even, maybe a 9, Andrew McCulley, great competitor. But I just think they're just lacking a little bit there. But I think they need, for the Bronx, they need an organising halfback. Mm-hmm. And that allows whoever plays 5. Milford. I'd prefer Milford. I wouldn't mind seeing Nick Graham go to 9.
Hooker, yeah.
But I don't think they're far off. Like anything, isn't it? Like cricket, golf, whatever. You have one good round or game, you can kick on.
Yeah.
The Titans, let's hope that they can do it. For me, it's the senior players that've got to step up. I think they're your leaders. Ash Taylor, if I've got a criticism of him, I think last year all I heard him talk about was playing for Queensland. Well, in my opinion, he's not ready for Queensland. He needs to just worry about playing first grade. Whoever's his manager and that should just tell him, don't even talk about Queensland. Just concentrate on your job at hand. He got put in a high wage bracket as a halfback probably before he was ready, and he's got to learn how to handle a game, manage a game, get the wins. And I think, and if he does that, then the other thing will take care of itself. He's a good enough player, but he's just got to get the Queensland bit out of his head and concentrate on what he's doing. And the Cowboys I can't put my head in there, but again, the senior players do need to step up. I think Jakey Clifford, he's struggling a bit at 9 with his passing. I like Kurt Baptiste come off the bench there on the weekend. I think he adds a bit of a spark. Yeah, they miss obviously big Jason Taumilano, and obviously JT is missing, but likes of Cohen Hess, I think he's a big body. He should be running over the top of people. But the bloke I do like is John Asiata.
Yeah. He's a 5'8" in a front rower's body.
Yeah,
his skill is unbelievable.
Yeah. The other bloke who played well for them as well is it Patrick Marga?
He
big Polynesian lad. He ran hard the whole game. Yeah. He doesn't get the raps, I guess, some of the others.
I think there's another one coming on, that Mitchell Dunn.
He didn't play this week.
He played a couple of weeks ago.
Jensen has a bit of a go too. Yeah. So, look, I think that was their best game, the previous game against Storm. We'll talk about it a little later on, but I think it's not all doom and gloom
No,
at the
no.
moment. Obviously, like you said, Vowles, the Titans won, and that's against the good side, Penrith. But the other two, I think, just a couple of little technical things, and we'll see how they go.
Bit of nostalgia there. Jai Whitbread played, and his father Greg played for the Seagulls and Titans before him.
He was an old John.
Yeah. So played with him at Seagulls. So good to see that progression. And young Max King, obviously Dave King played there as well. So it's good to see those boys following their father's footsteps.
And your blokes down the road.
Well, yeah, Burley. Yeah. Both my boys are Burley. So which is they haven't been playing for a number of years, so they're back playing there, which is good. Yeah.
Just to talk about, you got this Adrian Vowles Cup too. I just want to ask you about that and how that's going.
Yeah, well, a mate of mine, myself and a mate started it 2014 because there's no footy from under 12s to A grade, up until A grade. So we said, all right, let's start this carnival and get a couple of country teams play. And so we got 3. That was our first one, and we've now got 26 teams.
26 teams in 5 years.
That's great. And it's, we're coming from Redcliffe, Redlands, they've been from Mount Isa, Mackay. But what it did this year, it brought 1,000 people into the town. So that money spent in the town, everything was booked out, hotels, motels, caravan parks. Everyone does a roaring trade. I think it brought $170,000 into the town.
170,000.
So it's we're really proud of that. It's probably out of everything I've done on my footy, that's the best thing I've ever done.
Now, as you were saying earlier before we started, that a lot of the country towns are hurting too. So that's bringing that business, those people in, those numbers in. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and they spend their money going out as well. Like say Redcliffe or whatever, and they're spending money all the way out. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the spend is for the whole lot. But yeah, we're really proud of it. We've got girls involved as well, and the council are right behind it. So it's good.
And what are you doing here, Vowles, work-wise?
Well, I've just finished a job which I've been on and off for 7 years in the superannuation. So in that, we deal with all the key accounts, which are mining companies. So so we go on site and all that sort of stuff. So there's myself, Steve Walters started last year, and then Tony Butterfield does Newcastle. So a bit of a footy feel about it. But we'll be starting a new role in a couple of weeks with Bella Group Services. So they're a commercial cleaning company, and I'm looking forward to setting it all up in Queensland and getting the businesses, and just they're Nick Ostini's South Sydney player as well. So it's the footy connections live strong.
Yeah, sure. All right, Vowlesy, thanks for that. We're going to have a look at the games that have just happened over the last week. Let's go for the first game here. Broncos against the Tigers up at Suncorp. First game of the round on Thursday. As a Bronco, it broke my heart yet again. I had a couple of broken hearts this year, and this was one of them. The Tigers deserved their victory. We were talking about it again before off camera. They look to me, the Bronx at the moment, like they've just met about a few days ago in a pub and said, let's get a football team together. There doesn't look a lot of cohesion. They've got Joey made a good point the other day, they've got $1 million half, or 5'8", who should be making these decisions, and at the moment they don't look like they're actually making them.
We discussed earlier, it's if you're getting paid that sort of money, you've got to be managing games, you've got to be taking control, and at the you saw that set there. I think it was from a scrum, and they just lost their way. There's enough experience there to know where you've got to get to win a game of footy.
I think they dropped it like 3 times in three passes.
I think the fourth tackle. Yeah, the fourth tackle, they went to go blind rather than hitting up the middle one more time. Like I think the week before, Paul Vaughan did it for the Dragons 2 weeks in a row, where he hit it up 10 metres, played the ball quickly straight to the 5'8" Corey Norman. The Broncos lacked that. They lacked that ability to finish it off and then get that kick in. And it didn't look like Milford wanted the ball for that field goal attempt. So
he should be demanding it. I think.
Yeah.
Look, congratulations to Tigers because they hung in.
Luke Brooks had a great game.
He's running really well, isn't he?
Yeah.
And they've got their sport with choices. A couple of years ago, they didn't have a lot of choice in coming in Origin. They really are sport for choice, the Tigers. But the Broncos kept opening the door for them, and they eventually walked in. I think they bombed probably 4 tries, the Broncos. Jack Bird won, he dropped it over the line, etc. But you can only do what you can do, and then well done to the Tigers. Let's have a look at the Titans game. That was the first game on Friday night. One of your teams, Vowlesy, they were staring down the barrel of 0-5, and to their credit, they came back. I think an 8-point deficit. They muscled up. They hung in there. I thought Wallace was the pick of the forwards for me. Unfortunately, suspended, shoulder charge.
was extremely happy with James going to front row.
Mm.
I thought Ryan James, moving to front row was a great move. I thought he had a great game. I really was impressed with Ryan James.
He's a good player, and it's again those leaders, and when those two are leading, I think they're a better side. Then throw in Joy Arrow, who gives his all every week.
He does.
And then to cap it off was Michael Gordon's 250th, so he's scored a meat pie. So
Yeah, and Peachy had a big game.
he's a good
Peachy,
player.
And so did Brian Kelly. I thought
Yeah.
he ran really well too.
Brian
He's a
Kelly.
loser, wasn't he?
Yep.
Speaking of Joy Arrow, he would have been a bloke if he was playing in your day. You would have loved to have played with him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story about Joy Arrow. When he was 14, they played, I think it was Redcliffe, and he hits this big lad from Redcliffe, and big fella gets up swearing, and Joy says, I'm not allowed to swear, but you are allowed to run at me again. And sure enough, the big fella ran again, and he whacked him again, and the big fella went off. So, I've watched him all the way through. He's a good kid. He's tough, and I know they rate him. I worked with Steve Wohlers, and he rates him highly as a bloke, but as a competitor in that Origin arena.
Look, when he was selected for the Titans last year, when he first came along, they put him in front row. I thought I liked him Broncos as well, but I thought that's a big ask. But he just said, yeah, more, please. And then they put him in front row at Origin, the third game. All right, let's move on to the second game on Friday. Your second team that you played for, the Cowboys. A much improved performance against the Storm, an unbeaten Storm, 12-18. It ended up at 1300 Smile Stadium.
Well, I just think it's something they've got to look at and say, right, let's learn from that. It was a good result. Melbourne are a great side. They're the benchmark, so it's not too bad, if you're only just going down. But we've got to make sure next week, it's better than that and get the win. And
I think it's the Warriors next week. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and it's and they're one of those sides you don't know which side's going to play. So I just think they've got to keep improving, and if their service has been poor, what the games I've seen is in the passes are going behind, and this relates to everyone. So they're just that, and they get the ball, all of a sudden they get whacked. But that's what I found. It's not as I found that it actually. Probably the Broncos as well. It's not as crisp as the
McCulloch and Granville seem to have lost a yard of pace, don't they?
I thought it was clunky. That was
clunky.
The Cowboys look clunky to me. And I think that's why. I think it's because they're getting it here, and so they're not accelerating onto the ball. They're almost having to stop, and that stops the play because the person behind next to them is running over the ball. Blah 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 blah. They look clunky, and I think it's the delivery. I agree. It's delivery from hooker. It was a disgusting moment in the game as far as the referees were concerned. They deserve to be.
They're both being punted.
They deserve it.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone could see that the two blokes were severely injured. Probably the fact that Nate McDonald's legs facing out here somewhere gave it away. But what they do, let the game keep going.
It was 53 seconds. There are 6 officials.
53 seconds.
The Northern Stand, you played there many a time. They're a pretty loud crew, the Northern Stand. They were yelling out.
Yeah.
I'm sure that players were yelling and pointing. Not good enough.
No, not good enough.
All right.
Not good enough. But Cam Smith, record. Well done to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he is the greatest of all
greatest.
time. Yeah, absolutely. And well done. I mean, there's not a record he doesn't have.
No.
We go to the first game on Saturday, the Rabbitohs against the Warriors.
Yep.
You spoke about which Warriors team shows up. They were leading by 12 with 25 minutes to go, the Warriors. They were home.
Yep.
They had the wet sail, and all of a sudden they did a Warriors and 28-24 to South.
Yeah, you've got to have a special personality to coach the Warriors. I think there's so much talent there, and because I saw the score, I didn't come and watch it from the start, and I've gone, oh, geez, upset because I haven't tipped them, and I'm going, they're going to come out and smash the Rabbits, but then you could just see it start to turn, and the Rabbits ran over the top of them.
I think they're one of those sides when the blowtorch is applied. A lot of the times they don't go as well as they'd like. Going on a positive, Cody Walker, 4 tries. We talked about the depth of the New South Wales halves. He's another one that could potentially, he won't be there, I would imagine, at least in the first game, but, he's played some good football.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've loved watching his journey. So I've watched him since he was at the Titans, and I remember he was at East Tigers and played a really good year. Then he went to Melbourne. They sort of took a bit of attack out of him. He came back and played for the Tigers, and he didn't have that instinctiveness, but then that's returned, and under Wayne, he's sort of gone up another level, but he played some good footy.
He's an instinctive footballer, and he's just a natural.
Yeah, him and Cook, that combination. Cook out of dummy half is so quick.
Yeah.
That was a turning point when Cook ran that 30 metres, I think, at top pace. Looked inside, who was there? Cody Walker doing a Terry Lamb. backing up straight up the middle, which he does all the time.
Yeah. And Cook's journey's an amazing one too.
Yeah.
He's a fullback winger.
Fullback winger at the Illawarra Cutters.
And he'd been punted from a couple of clubs too.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not punted, but he was a journeyman, wasn't he? All right, the second game, the Knights and Manly. We said this was going to be a tough one to pick.
Yeah.
I did take them. I think I got 6 last week, but I took the Knights. You're talking about clunky. I think the Knights are a bit at the moment. Ponga was good at fullback again. That's 3 in a row for Manly. Greggy?
Well, I thought without Turbo, I rate him, obviously, I think we all do. He's a great player. Without Turbo, I thought Newcastle were going to win, but yet again, clunky, as you said. And I think the thing with Newcastle is that there's a lot of pressure on Pearce, and if Pearce doesn't have a great game, they can't get Ponga into the game. And that's why I think they tried to move him to 5'8". They're moving back to fullback. He is a fullback. He seems like a fullback. The problem is that then when Pearce doesn't go well, how do they get the ball to Ponga? So I just thought there was a bit clunky game, same as what I thought about Cowboys. But
You mentioned too Nathan Brown.
I keep saying this, and I think Nathan Brown, and you would have played against him, and that I think he's the nicest human being I've ever seen on. I've never seen him live. I might have seen him once live, but nicest human being you ever meet, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe him being such a nice bloke, they see him as a mate.
You want him to succeed, don't you?
I want him to succeed. I really do.
Look, they're a club that there's still a nucleus of a bunch of players who've come from
Other clubs.
Give them time. I think they're not too far. They're not out there like they were 3 years ago getting belted.
Still get 22,000 every week.
Yeah, great supporters, Newcastle.
And they've obviously lost Aiden Guerra probably for the year. That was a terrible injury.
That was horrible.
That Fanu incident that he carried on and getting that bird, that's just not needed, is it? That's just a dickhead sort of thing to do. I know. I'd imagine that Des Hasler would have been an old school bloke, would have really ripped into him for that.
Yeah, I just you felt like giving him a backhand. Just I think he said something to the referee, and then he was talking to one of the players, and then he was talking to the crowd, and there's no need for it.
No. If your kids did that, you would certainly give them the proverbial.
And the right man to punish him too, Michael Innes. Michael Innes saying, you shouldn't do that to the crowd. Then they show a moment of when he did the Viking clap to the Canberra crowd.
Yeah.
So need we say more about Michael Innes?
Look, the last game on Saturday, the Sharks took on the Roosters. Obviously, we thought the Roosters and considering the injuries with the Sharks, at one stage I thought, watching that, this could be 50, 60 points here. They took the foot off the gas after a while. Did they look the real deal? The Roosters, don't they?
I think they're a good bit early to talk, but they're a good chance of going back to back, and they can keep that side on the paddock, and they look like they. I rate Trent Robinson as the coach. I think him and Craig Bellamy, obviously the two elite coaches, but he changes. He's not coached like this. He changes to development. The story I love about him is when he went over to France to coach Catalans, he learned to speak French. So he'd address the team in French,
right.
And so to me that speaks volumes about the fella, and you listen to him talk, and I love what he's about.
We struggle with English, so he's done great job.
Yeah, I do too.
Look at Luke Kearney, just keeps on keeping on.
Luke Cleary.
Keary, sorry.
Luke Kearney, you changed his name.
Luke
Cleary.
Cleary. Queensland or New South Wales.
Yeah. Well, he's an Ipswich boy.
He's brilliant. I keep
out.
saying he's been a Queenslander, I shouldn't say. He's my favourite player at the moment. I love the way he plays the game. And I think Trent Robinson's the perfect coach for him.
Yeah, he was at Burleigh Bears many moons ago and played Q Cup. He's only a young fella, and obviously the Titans didn't keep him, so that's one they let go. But yeah, I love what he's about. He proved it in the grand final how good a player he is.
Yeah.
Playing for Australia now.
Yeah.
He's got to be there in the 17th for New South Wales.
I'll pick him.
Sunday we go to the Dragons and the Bulldogs. And this is one I was really looking forward to because I thought it'd be a crack of a game, an old-fashioned game. The last couple of weeks, they've found their mojo in defence, the Bulldogs. But to the Dragons' credit, they didn't give them an opportunity. They were fantastic, the Dragons.
Yeah, they owed them one. They got beaten 38-0 last year at Cogra by that Canterbury side, and I think they knew they owed them one. Tyson Frizzell adds so much to that side. They're complete. You can't believe one player, not being the 1, 7, 6 or 9, can add so much to a side, but he's the second row that adds heaps to that side.
I love watching him play, and even though he plays for New South Wales, he's one of my favourite players. I love to watch, and as you said, he's been out and then he just comes in and he's just 110% and just flat out. And I love it. And Mary McGregor must, speaking of good guys who you want to see go well, Mary McGregor's one of those fellas, but he must love having him back in that team.
Yeah. I think Gordon Tellis came out on the weekend too and sung his praises and said basically he's the best back rower in the game. So coming from Gordon Tellis, it's not a bad rap. The last game on Sunday, the Raiders and the Eels, and this is one that we said would be the match of the round, and it didn't turn out to be Greg.
No, it didn't. No, I was disappointed in the Eels. Canberra played them through the middle. Canberra played it hard. Canberra made their forwards work hard. Canberra offloaded their bigger forwards last year, and they showed with those Englishmen, those tough Englishmen, and that they could play it in the forwards, and they did it well, and they were quicker. They were quicker than Parramatta, I thought, and really well coached. And I've knocked Ricky Stewart, which you should never knock a champion before, but they look really well drilled this year.
Yeah. Again, it's only early days, but you look at the Eels, and I'll learn from this too, the Eels, because everyone expected the Eels just to fall over at the start. Now, I think they've won 4, haven't they, or 3?
3.
56% completion rate. You can't win against anyone with that, let alone
Canberra.
the Raiders were good. The other big one, Ferguson's nose. He can now breathe around the corner.
Jeez,
that was horrible, wasn't it?
That's he's got quite a big honker anyway, but it was certainly pointing towards his ear. So,
and he didn't go off for that. He went off for the ribs, so he would have woke up a bit sore on Monday morning and after getting beaten too. So that was a round that was. Let's have a look at the games coming up this week, and you'll join us for this, Vowlesy. We've got a big round ahead. The first one, Thursday night, we've got the Sharks against the Panthers at PointsBet Stadium.
Shark
is that
Park?
the Shark Park?
I hate saying these. PointsBet Stadium, yeah. Look,
what a
Shark Park.
load of absolute trollop.
Absolutely.
I know they get money from it, but please.
Money talks, I
Shark
guess,
Park.
doesn't it? The great Neil Diamond said.
They stopped. You weren't allowed to call Lane Park because Suncorp sponsored them, and they started fining players for it. Please. It's friggin' Lane Park. It's Shark Park. Anyway, PointsBet.
Let me go again. Sharks versus Panthers at Shark Park. What do you think, Vowlesy?
Oh, we've just got a sneaky suspicion that the Sharkies are going to, at home, be too strong here. I'm a terrible tipster, but I think they're
You're in good company there, Vowlesy. What do you think, Greg?
I was going to go Sharks, and I will stay with the Sharks by 2.
Look, apparently for Feeder's not 100%, and more than likely he's not going to play. So on that, they've already got Gallen's back this week.
Gallen's back, yeah.
I'm going to go with the Panthers. I think they'll be smart from having their pants pulled down by the Titans.
Yep.
The Friday night game, the Bulldogs, Rabbitohs. They'll be, obviously the Rabbitohs, big news this week, and we'll talk about it in a little while with Greg Inglis, obviously calling quits to a great career. I think the Rabbitohs would beat any side this week. So I'm going to take the Rabbitohs there.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Rabbitohs. I just think they're playing a good brand of footy. They deserved to lose last week, but they, I thought led by Sam Burgess, who did a couple of shots and really lifted his team. I think they'll be too strong. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a given. This one, I think Rabbitohs will win. I think they'll win easy. But you can't. You feel a bit sorry for Bulldogs. You can't have all. You already lose a few players because of the issues you've had over the last few years, and then you have Napa get injured and Foran get injured. Sooner or later, the well's dry.
When you're already struggling and you've got your 2 senior representative players
out.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is.
All right, the big one, the heavyweight clash on Friday, Storm and Roosters. This should be an absolute belter of a game. Vowlesy, what do you think?
I really don't. I don't know. I'll take Storm because they're at home. That's the only reason. Yeah. But I can't wait to watch this game.
I'll go Roosters. Just Luke Cleary. I'm sticking with him. I think he's
him
and Munster. This is going to be a great game. We'll see where they're both at right now.
I think this will be something like 14-12.
Yeah,
a really tight game. The first game Saturday. Good luck. You're just tossing the coin before. Do it again. Warriors and Cowboys. Depends, like you said. It's over there, over in New Zealand.
I'll take the Warriors just because they're at home. Hard as it is for me to tip against the Cowboys, but I think the Warriors at home, and after last week's debacle, they'll be looking to make amends.
Right, Cowboys.
It'll be different.
I'm going to go Cowboys. I want Cowboys to win. That's probably why.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm going Cowboys, and I think they were big improvers last week against the Melbourne Storm. If they can improve another 5 or 10%, I think they'll be too good for the Warriors. Saturday, the second game on Saturday, the Dragons and Manly. Manly are the big improvers at the moment, 3 in a row. You guys were white hot last week. It'll be a good game, this one.
Yeah, I'm going for St. George.
No, really?
I'll go the Dragons too, just because they're at home. But I think that'll be the second best game of the round.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm going to go the Dragons too. I remember I had the displeasure of watching the '96 grand final with you, Greggy, after you were so-called robbed by David Manson.
It's his second name he deserves. Charles should have been his first after that.
All right,
Absolutely robbed.
Listen, there's only 2 games on Saturday because obviously Easter's coming up.
Yep.
The first game on Sunday, the Titans and the Knights. Now, this is going to be an interesting one too.
You're tossing the coin before you.
At home, I'm taking the Titans. I think they'll have a bit of a spring in their step. I believe that Ashley Taylor's out for 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Wallace is out. That's going to hurt them a bit as well. But I think, is Shannon Boyd back? I believe he's back, so that might help.
I'm going to go the Knights in an upset.
We're back in your Vowsy.
Alrighty.
I think the Titans they might have won last week, but I'm not sold on them yet.
Well, neither side has got any momentum, I guess.
Yep.
Just the last game on Sunday, the Raiders and the Broncos, and this is in Canberra. They're on an absolute roll at the moment, the Raiders, and it hurts me to say I think they're going to be too strong for the Broncos at the moment. They've got momentum. They've got a really good hooker in Hodgson. They've got a forward pack that are just all playing for each other.
That Bateman.
Yeah, they're good. The Pommy boys just have added a new dimension to them. And you look at the Raiders last year. I did a game last year, Triple M, and against the Broncos, and Raiders were the best team in the first half. Amazing. Then at halftime, the second team come out of something, but that was their problem. They lose. So I don't know if they're mentally tougher.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to go upset here and go the Bronx against the Raiders.
I'm going the Raiders at home. Green Machine.
All right, then we move to Monday and the Eels and the Tigers, and obviously they were the first few rounds. They were a bit of a fairy tale story.
They were.
Look, the Tigers had a great win against the Broncos last week.
I reckon one of them will sneak into the 8. One of these two teams will sneak into the 8.
I feel the Tigers more so than the Eels at this stage.
Yeah.
What do you think this week?
I think I'll go the Tigers. Eels are big improvers, but I love what the Tigers are doing, and I'll go the Tigers for this one.
Yeah, I'm going the Tigers.
100%.
Yeah. All righty. Let's have a look at some of the things that are going on at the moment. Before we do, Greggy, our tips last week, mate. How'd you go?
5. I think you got one more. Did you get 6?
I got 6
you
last
got 6.
week. Yeah, I somehow jagged one more. All righty. Let's have a look at some of the talking points this week. There's been a couple. I know that our EP's going over there. Keith's going, hurry up. But a couple of big points that we do have to have a look at. Let's go with, first of all, Josh Maguire's actions at the moment. One of our polls this week was, is he just a hard old-fashioned player, or is he dirty? Some guys came out the other day and said he's a grub, and we've heard that a number of times. Personally, whenever I played sport, especially football, it was probably the lowest thing you could do was touch someone's eyes. To me, that was never an indication or a measure of how tough you were. I think it's something that he's only a young bloke still. He's 28 years old. I think he needs to stamp that stuff out of his game. It's not a good look for the game. I don't think parents would bring their kids in seeing that image.
I didn't see it, so I'm really surprised he did it because he's blind in one eye anyway. So what a stupid thing. I'm with you. I can't cop that. And if he does it, then he should get rubbed out. As a player, I tell you what, I love him in my side. He just there's no doubt about that. You talk about players, and say he is a grub, but you'd have him in your side. And I think without him, the Cowboys probably would have got beaten.
Well, he ran 189 metres again the other night.
I find it interesting. Steve Lennane got 16 weeks for an eye gouge a long time ago.
About 85, 86
about 80. He just knew he was at Newcastle. He left the Dragons by then. He was at Newcastle.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. And he got 16 weeks. That was an eye gouge.
Yeah, there's no way
you can't sugarcoat it. And I love him too. I reckon he's a great player.
That's what I mean.
You'd have him on your side you'd have 13 Maguires every day of the week.
If he gets rid of that garbage, he's wonderful. I like the other niggle and everything else, but when you're touching people's eyes and whatnot.
Well, you can be tough without doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And he had been. That's what his career had been built
on. Biggest news of the NRL year so far is obviously the great Greg Inglis's call time and his career.
Yeah.
And what a career it's been. I remember listening to Talking Sport back in 2005, and I watched a lot of the Q Cup then, and there was this skinny young fella from North Brisbane. And I called him up and I said, because I used to call up every now and then and said, who is this young Greg?
What was your name?
What's that?
What was your name?
I never had a moniker like you. And I never gave myself names. Never speak about myself in third person like yourself. But I said, who's this kid? And they said he's a boy from Kempsey, and he'll never play for Queensland, and sure enough, he did. But he's produced some of the greatest things I've seen in a football field.
Amazing player, and I was lucky enough to play against him actually in that 2005 year.
Yeah.
I was playing for Burleigh, and he played for Norse, and we played them at Burleigh, and I've come out of the line and put a shot on someone, and they've just tipped an inside ball to Greg, and he ran about 60 metres.
You didn't chase him down?
He was too quick, but he was such a skinny young kid.
yeah.
I never thought he would get as big as what he
Yeah.
did, but he was amazing, and you just knew you just had that class.
Yeah.
I put him at 5'8", I think, in the 2009 grand final against Parramatta.
Yeah.
You got 5 out of the year that year.
5'8",
Mm-hmm.
and he had a blinder. And he had a blinder in the grand final against Parramatta. That amazed me. I heard somebody say, week in, week out, he wasn't the greatest player, but in the semi-final, grand final, Australia, Queensland,
Big game player.
Wally Lewis sort of ish as far as he was able to step up. He could step up. He was on his day. He was unstoppable.
Then he got the leadership at South, and that brought him to a different dimension again.
Yep.
He moved to something else. Then maybe he wasn't as quick as he was in the past. He was, like you said, Vowlesy, bigger. But when he captained Queensland last year, I know he only played the first 2 games.
He played well.
That was like Arthur Beetson sort of style, wasn't it?
He reminds me a lot of Arthur Beetson. If you look at him, even the way he looks, Danafati, was in that area as a young fellow, but he looks just like him. And the thing that worries me about Greg is after footy's finished, because I can speak for I struggle when footy finished, and it's such a big void to fill, and he hasn't finished how he wanted to finish as well, and that'll no matter who you are to lead it, if you don't finish on your own terms. And I would have liked to see him just have a whole month off, and just go away, and then make his decision. Not make it after a week. You go away for a month and you have a couple of weeks off with your family, and you just not even think about footy. Then make a decision. I'd just like to see him wait a little longer. It's his decision, obviously, but I would have just liked him to wait a bit.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, that's our league section this week. Thanks for joining us, Vowlesy. Really appreciate you coming in, mate.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks heaps, and best of luck with everything, with your business, and also the Adrian Vowles Cup. It's a brilliant idea. 2014, not 3 sides, now 26 sides. That's just brilliant. It's great to hear, mate.
Thank you. And we've got Origin not too far away. We might try and get you in down the track. And
Happy to.
Yeah, thanks, mate. All right, Greggy, the World Cup squad was named just a few hours ago. No real surprises, I guess. A few unlucky omissions.
Yeah, Hanscom unlucky to an extent. I thought the squad was the squad that should have been picked. You couldn't pick Hazelwood based on the fact that he hasn't played a game. The thing I find interesting, the thing I find interesting is that it almost seems like the Australians are putting the Ashes in front of it, but because the way they said it was, we'd rather get Hazelwood ready for the Ashes. I understand that he's not ready for the World Cup, but to say we're getting him ready for the Ashes, you're basically saying that you're looking at that as a bigger comp to me than the World Cup. This year, the World Cup's the biggest comp. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Look, I do, and it's the next big thing, I guess. The Ashes is down the track.
Yeah,
I guess that puts
that doesn't mean I would have picked him. I'm just saying it was interesting the way Trevor Hohns and all they spoke about was the fact that, got to get him ready for the Ashes.
I think it's that stress fracture. I think they're worried because, like, if he's not right for that, that's a big hole for the Ashes as well. But a good point.
I agree with them in their decision. I just don't agree with the way they stated it.
Apart from those guys, I guess 15-man squad. Obviously, Warner and Smith were always going to be back in there.
Yeah.
Your man Marsh made it.
Don't say despite. Despite what? I said that Sean Marsh should be in the one-day side, and he is in the one-day side. I just don't think he's a test match cricketer anymore.
He speaks highly of you.
Oh, no doubt.
Look, they've also today selected the squad for pretty early. The squad for both squads for the England tour, the Australian A teams, the one-day side and the 4-day sides. I think they play 4 4-day games over there, including a game against Australia.
Yeah, Australia versus Australia. That should be exciting.
Look, it's pretty smart by Australia, I guess, really, because obviously we haven't had much success there in a long time. When was the last time Australia won an Ashes series?
Over there, I'm guessing that it would have been 2001.
So
That'd be correct. I
we-
think because 2005, I was unfortunate enough to be over them. We lost that.
was that
so-
when Kasperwich?
Got caught behind, and he had the glove off the bat, so it shouldn't have been given out. That's correct. At Edgbaston, I think it was
Yeah, right.
in 2005. So 2001's the last time Australia won in England.
There were a couple
Serious.
of blokes that weren't going to be considered: Joe Burns, Bancroft, Labuschagne, Renshaw, Siddle.
They're all playing
Yeah,
county
they're
cricket.
all over there. But it's an interesting squad, as you can see up there, and a couple of young blokes. I think that last game, I think between Australia and Australian A, is that they've basically said it's going to be a selection process for some of those guys who are, their last chance, I guess.
Yeah, I just got the side now in front of me, and there's a lot of the players there that are already going to be in the Australia side that are in the Australia A side. Nessa's going to be an interesting one, if you ask me. James Patterson, I don't know if they'll pick him. John Holland, I don't think he's got much chance to play for Australia in the Ashes, but there's a couple of interesting ones. Nessa's the interesting one. Nessa's a chance.
One bloke who's going really well over there at the moment is Peter Siddle. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. He's a workhorse. If you took him over there, he had to bowl 30 overs or whatever. He's not going to break down. He's been there and done it before.
Yeah, correct. He didn't make the 20 contracted players list either, which was surprising. So he didn't make that list. Needed a couple of the test players didn't make that. I don't know if they'll play Siddle. I think Jai Richardson might have his spot.
All right. Well, this has been a big week for sport in general, I guess, but a big week for us and a big week coming up, I guess. Thanks to Adrian Vowles for joining us today. We really appreciate his time.
Thanks to Vowles. It was brilliant.
And until next week, may the bounce of the ball go your way.
Kick to the corner.